He said the most exercised part of the corporate body is the pointed finger. We really like to point fingers at other people and events and oh, it's the markets and it's this and it's that, when actually we need to look in the mirror and say, okay, what role did I have in what just happened?
Hi, this is Brad Henry. On the podcast, we have stories about the underdog. I've had a lot of victory, but more tragedy in my life has made me very compassionate and perceptive on those who struggle, but those who are not willing to give up. And these stories will hopefully inspire you to become more and be more in life, to give you hope, to know that victory can be right around the corner. And hopefully today's story will be that one to put you in a great mindset to know that everything in life is attainable with persistence and hope. So thank you for listening today, and I think you will really enjoy our channel. The last podcast we did, there were so many great reviews listening to you. You had some great nuggets of truth that people attached to. And I think today's podcast, you wanted to kind of up one and dig deeper into a certain subject.
Right. Because I think there are some concepts that some people would say are common sense, but they're not common practice. And so,
Ooh.
especially in organizational life, and the topic you and I talked about was accountability. And so I think it's one of the most powerful personal values somebody can bake into their life. And it's an extremely powerful concept that I've shared over the last 30 years with groups, business groups, nonprofit groups, and it resonates with people. And it's so easy for us not to be accountable for the things that happen in our life for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, I wanted to touch on that topic because it is such an important one. And I hope people will take it seriously and take it to heart.
Well, I had told you before, I hate accountability.
Yeah.
Uh, but the more you talk to me about it, the more I gravitated to yes, that you have the right, you know, um, it's almost like family accountability. Sometimes, they don't come at you um, and say something nice beforehand. They they just come and say what they think.
Right.
And you know, what's your definition of accountability?
Well, accountability is, I think the simplest way to describe it is ownership, taking ownership of the things that happen to you in your life. And there's lots of things that occur to us in our lives. And I think it's much easier, as Tom Peters once said, the noted consultant, the guy who wrote the book In Search of Excellence back in the early 1980s. He said the most exercised part of the corporate body is the pointed finger. We really like to point fingers at other people and events and oh, it's the markets and it's this and it's that, when actually we need to look in the mirror and say, okay, what role did I have in what just happened? And so, it's a very important topic. There was an article once in Newsweek that said the victimization of America, and it was an article about how people like to point the finger and blame others and make excuses for not getting the results or what they want in their life, when actually they need to take a good hard look in the mirror. And so there was a tool that we used called a ladder of accountability. And the ladder of accountability starts out at the very lowest level of being unconscious and unaware. And so something happens to us, and we're not aware of it even, So the first step is first being aware of where we are on the accountability ladder. And then the next step up is, we're aware, and then we blame others and we make excuses. And so the where things really start to change is when we pass over from being unaccountable to accountable, and that is we acknowledge reality. And reality is, hey, this is what happened. Here was my role. And, so that's the first step. Then the second step is owning it, where you say, okay, and here was my role in what happened. And then you find solutions. You say, okay, that advertising campaign didn't work. What role did I have? Now let's go out and find some solutions. Let's brainstorm. Let's come up with a new strategy. And then the final thing is a lovely acronym that I like, and that is Go Win. And it stands for Get On With It Now. Get on with it
Ah,
now. Go win. And so when you have an accountable mindset, you're action oriented. And then, there are things that happen to us where we don't have any control over. There's, we used to call it gravity issues. We all deal with gravity every day, but we don't get up in the morning and say, "Oh man, not another day of gravity." We don't do that. But there are gravity issues, things that are happening that we can do nothing about. Those are the things that we need to let go of.
ah,
People can get upset about the political environment, or, now they can go vote so they can do something about that, or maybe they can go protest or something. So, that's good. And if you feel compelled to do so, you should. But to sit home and complain about the political environment is not going to change anything. The only
right.
thing it might change is your own mood and personal health. So it's something to just be more aware of, is just where are we when it comes to accountability. And then I like to differentiate between accountability and responsibility. So those are two words that are sometimes used as synonyms, they interchangeably, but in our work, we try to differentiate between responsibility and accountability. So accountability is a mindset. It's how you're thinking about the work you do, the life you lead. Responsibility is a little tighter. So I always use the image of a volleyball team, and you have six players on the side, and there's three in the front row and three in the back row. If the ball comes into my area of responsibility, I keep it in play.
Now, let me ask
Ball.
you this though. The problem I said I hate accountability
Right.
is that say I had a drinking problem or a drug problem or whatever,
Hmm.
um, and I had a accountability partner, and he'd call every day and say, "How are you feeling? What's going on? Oh, I don't like that." What's the difference
Yeah.
between what you're talking about and
Well, so what you're talking about is AA, a technique used by Alcoholics Anonymous and many other dependent groups that get together, and it really helps keep people accountable to what they say they're going to do. And the research is pretty clear that if you have somebody that's going to ask you about something you say you're going to do, you're more apt to do it. And if you don't do it, then there should be some consequences, even if it's just letting down your accountability partner. Uh, so so it's actually a very good practice to have somebody check in with you, because we always do better when we have a coach and we have somebody encouraging us.
yeah.
So
I agree. I did a podcast the other day with my former headmaster football coach when I used to play football. And I would listen to anything he'd tell me. I would follow him to the ends of the earth. Um, but I have a problem with somebody getting into my personal life and keeping me accountable. What is the problem with that when I'm so attuned to if in the business world if somebody keeps me accountable, I'm fine with it. Okay, I'll listen to you and yep, I goofed up or I did this, but personally I am shut off.
Well,
What's the
and
difference?
that's that's been something that a lot of people have tried to do is, separate our professional life from our personal life. And some would argue that, hey, it's all one life. So, everything is game. But I think, we do have boundaries that we need to set between personal and professional, and it's up to us. See, that's our own accountability. If somebody starts to get into an area that we think, is out of bounds, we should let them know, hey, here's my boundary.
Hmm.
And that's fine. And then they should respect that, and they 9 times out of 10 they will respect that. Um, but at the same time, I might be your accountability partner, and I might ask, how are things going? And you say at home it's really terrible and bad, and it might be good for me to try to say, well, tell me more about that if it's comfortable with you, and then you can describe it. And when you have somebody to share these things with, it makes a big difference in your own health.
Ah,
So it really depends on the situation, but certainly boundaries are important. One of my favorite business psychologists is Henry Cloud, and Henry Cloud's written a couple books on boundaries and how important it
oh,
is to set boundaries. So
we'll put that link down. Henry Cloud,
yeah, Dr. Henry Cloud, and yeah, some very good work on
because very few
boundaries.
people set boundaries.
Well, yeah, I guess that's why you wrote the book too, huh? Because we do need to set those boundaries,
Yeah.
and if you don't set the boundaries, then somebody else will, and it might not be comfortable for you,
Yep.
and so yeah, it is something we need to learn how to do.
Accountability. Your story, your history, you've been faithful in really everything you've done. You've played a level playing field and been fair.
Tried to.
And and you look to the interests of others more than Denny Alamina. That says a lot to be. How do you be consistent in accountability? In is it surrendering yourself? What's the key?
Well, key thing is a question that I call it the catalytic question to bring more accountability into your life. And the question is, what more can I do to get the result? So if I'm looking for a goal, whether there's a financial goal or a personal goal or something, I should be asking myself, well, what more can I do? What more can I do? What more can I do? Or if I have a team, and let's say we're not reaching our sales goals, we ask the question, what more can we do? What more can we do? And we keep asking that question over and over, and we get down to some essentials where here are the things that we can control. Here are the things we cannot control. We might have a certain budget and we can't control getting, more of a budget. So we have to go with what we have. It is what it is. And and then, we formulate a plan based on that, and we do what we can do. That's accountability. It's a mindset.
Uh,
So I'm not pointing a finger at my team and saying, hey, you didn't get the results.
yeah.
I'm not pointing at the marketing department, or the sales department, or I'm looking in the mirror and I'm asking,
Mhm.
what more can I do? And that's a powerful, powerful question that can give you more a sense of control. And Dr. Henry Cloud says that all human beings are control freaks. We all are control freaks. We want to control everything.
Even
And
our health, our death. We don't, yeah, we
yeah,
want to, yeah, you're
and
right.
it's important to acknowledge what we can control and what we cannot control. So there's a lot of work around, that idea too. There's a circle of competence that people talk about, and it's really about understanding, what you're good at and what you can control and what you cannot control. That's why teams are so important in the corporate world because nobody can just do it alone and be an island unto themselves. So you usually need a team of people, especially a CEO or somebody running a large division. I mean, they need an effective group of people that they trust, and there's no excuses. They get things done when they say they're going to do something. They do it. That's accountability. It's a mindset that you have to train your brain to do because our brains are just naturally trying to defend ourselves. That's how our brains are designed. So when something goes wrong, our first instinct is to point the finger and say, "Hey, here's why I didn't get this done or that." And we just need to recognize that,
Mm.
be aware of it, and start to climb the ladder. Or some people call it the accountability mountain or the staircase. It doesn't matter. It's a vertical thing that we've got to climb to get from that natural reaction that most of us come up with when something doesn't go our way.
I found that there's no weak link. This is my perspective. No weak link in an organization. If there is, um, we hired that person for the wrong job in the company.
Which happens.
And I
Yeah.
think we need to reevaluate where that person should be instead of just saying, you're lousy, you're out of here. If we approach life more like, how can I help you be the best that you can be where you're at? That's a whole paradigm shift.
Yes, and it really goes back to the work of Douglas McGregor, who came up with Theory X and Theory Y about human nature.
Huh.
Theory X was human beings are lazy, they need to be controlled, and Theory Y was human beings are to be trusted, that they're incredible, and you just need to be clear with goals and set goals, but people can be trusted to do what they need to do to help the organization. And I think ever since then, people have been asking about what is human nature? Are we good by nature? Are we bad by nature? And of course, it's not a one or a zero. There's a lot of in between, but I think we're all looking for human nature, and we're all trying to be the best human beings that we can be. So that's my belief that people get up in the morning and they want to have a great day and they want to be productive and they want to make a difference. Um, you can believe that people aren't, very good and they're not to be trusted. And I think the way you answer that question determines the quality of your life.
Mm.
Because if I'm always on guard and I can't trust people,
Ah,
boy, I better go live in a cave somewhere.
I was telling somebody that the other day. I said, you know what? I'd rather trust everybody and look for the good in everybody, even if I get taken, uh, than to look for the dark side always
hmm
and live that
hmm
way.
Right, right. Yeah, that's my choice too. And optimism, there was an article I just saw yesterday that optimism keeps us in a healthier physiological state.
Mm.
So it's good to be optimistic, and I know some people aren't. I usually ask a group that I'm working with, how many see yourselves as optimists, and how many of you see yourselves as pessimists? And there's always, two-thirds saying optimists, about a third say pessimist, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's good to be aware of how you're looking at humankind and do you give people the benefit of the doubt or not? We have a concept we call, seeing the innocence in others, seeing the innocence. That
Wow.
people are doing what makes sense to them. Now, I may not agree with it.
Yep.
I may have to talk to that person about that behavior or something, but we taught that concept to a group of police officers. And years later, one of those police officers came back and said that was one of the best trainings we had because I could arrest somebody for doing something, but in my mind, I was thinking they were doing what made sense to them. Now, I didn't agree with it, and I could arrest him, but I could arrest him in a healthy manner. I didn't have to be overly
Mm.
aggressive, because I think this
Wow.
person's like really low and scum of the earth, type stuff. And if you do that,
Wow.
then that's where you see violence break out and
That's
excessive force.
powerful.
It's an incredibly powerful concept. So it's again one of those little nuggets that I think if we could learn how to do that, we're going to create a more peaceful world for us individually. So it's a selfish thing. It's not something you're doing for the good of mankind. You're doing it for your own good because it keeps your mind in a healthy place. It keeps you healthy. You can make better decisions. And so you don't get in that spiral of
I
negativity.
wish we had a video of that. Your talk to the police, that or law enforcement, and then the change of what this gentleman said to you. Just that's incredible.
Yeah, well, maybe some policeman will be listening to this and take that on and share a story with us someday. I mean, that's why, you want to do these podcasts is to
Yeah.
get ideas out there that people can use to help them be better people.
Right, right. Now, you're not a big guy. You're not 6'5" and 240,
No.
but uh, you were the captain of a football and baseball team in college.
Yes.
Uh, how did that happen? Was it leadership? Was it um, helping other people around you more than yourself? How did that happen?
Yeah, I've always liked sports. I think I had some athletic ability, and even though I was small, I'm like 5'7", 165 pounds. So I played basketball and was a point guard, and my job was to get it to guys that could really score. So and football was the cornerback, a defensive cornerback, and I was blessed with quickness. I wasn't necessarily fast straight ahead, but I was
But
quick
you
from side to
became
side.
captain of the
Yeah, yeah,
college football, not high school football team. Well, you probably in high school were too, but in college you were captain. That's a
yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, and I think you earn that over the years. My first year in college playing football, I didn't play much, and later I learned that the coaches even had a discussion whether they should bring me back as a sophomore. And so there was one defensive back coach that said, no, I think we should give Alameda a chance. And so I've always appreciated that. And I worked out hard and came back and earned a starting position and started my sophomore, junior, and senior year.
Oh,
And it,
wow.
yeah, and I think when players see that kind of hard work and they recognize it, and so I was influential, and they chose me as the leader of the team, which was an honor and a lot of fun. So sports, I think, always brings out sort of the best in us, and I think we're better when we're around other people because other people push us and they ask us tough questions and they challenge us in all the ways that they can do that. I just think it makes us, better people all the way around, and that's what sports did for me. And then that translated pretty well into the corporate world, and a lot of corporations are looking for athletes because they know, they've done the work and they've worked hard, and they have certain things that translate well into the business world as well.
Well, I think football really, I was a very good runner, but football, till I got too many concussions, really molded me more than anything. Uh, Football just taught me so much. Uh, I mean, toughness, dedication, accountability, teamwork, so many things
Yeah.
come into that sport.
That's the beauty of sports, and that's why I'm so glad, like over the last 30 years, and as my kids grew up, they got involved in different types of sports, and a lot of it was just recreational. They would get together and just play. And the travel leagues got real competitive and they were serious, but there was a lot of recreational basketball and softball and all that that was happening. And I think that's great because I think kids do learn a lot from playing sports, and so I was glad to see that expanded over the years because they didn't have all the sports that they have now when we were, I
Right.
mean, middle school and all that stuff. So no, some kids just aren't athletic and they're not interested in sports at all. And that's fine. They learn how to shape themselves and be better, in other ways.
Are you born with the desire, or does that happen over time?
That's always been the question about leadership, and that's been my passion over the last, 30 plus years is to, understand leadership and how it develops. And uh, the question's always been, are leaders born or are they made? And so hopefully that's been answered enough times that we understand that leaders are really made. They're not just born with the
Uh,
skills they need to be a successful leader, whether it be in the military or in business
so
or
it's life's lessons, life challenges that you go through that kind of bring you into that position, right?
absolutely. This is what I call the paradox of suffering because
Ah,
suffering is what creates the character that builds great leaders. And so, that's a paradox because as our kids grow up, we do everything to make sure they're not suffering. And yet it is
ah,
the suffering that molds their character
yes.
but it's understandable.
That is a great topic. Um, we want to protect our kids at the same time. If a lion feeds the cubs all the time, they don't know how to hunt.
Right, right.
And it's same way with us. If we're not taught and let go, having a fail safe is great for a little bit, but over a long term, if we know we have a parachute, we're gonna eventually fail. We gotta go out on our own and figure it out. And that's difficult as a parent to look
Yeah.
and see your kids suffer.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it takes, a lot of courage. I know my son Tim, we were trying to help him out with some things. And at one point he said, "Hey, I want to do this myself," and I thought, that's great. That's great. And he knows he has a backstop but it's great that he wants to go out and do it himself, and I think a lot of people want to go out and do it themselves. But as parents, sometimes we can be overprotective. You've heard helicopter parents and
Yeah, I was just
all
gonna
that
think
stuff.
of that helicopter. Yeah,
All well intentioned, but
right.
can the thing I always remember was somebody once there was a little chick that was being hatched, and a little it cracked the egg and it was trying to break out, and somebody thought they'd help it by pulling the egg apart, and what happened to the chick is that the chick has to be strained trying to get out because that's what builds its muscles that allows it to grow to the next stage. And if it doesn't have that strain and effort to break out of the shell, it dies. And
Wow.
I thought, wow, isn't that an interesting metaphor for us? Is, let
Yeah.
people struggle, let people, because that's what builds their character that makes them blossom, as leaders.
Accountability has a lot of different tentacles, like an octopus, accountable here, there. I think the point is that you're open to any criticism. If you're going to be a leader, husband, wife, whatever, CEO, athletics, you got to be open to criticism.
Oh yeah, because it's going to come whether you like it or not. So,
Because, there's a lot of CEOs that say, hey, my door's always open, but not their mind.
right,
They
right.
only think what they want to think, and they're not gonna, they do it for just, you know, saying they do it, but they really don't. Interest.
Yeah, and that's we often use the example of, walking the talk. So it's one
Mm,
thing to talk about wanting feedback. It's another thing to really ask for it and welcome it when it does come. Again, it goes against human nature. We bristle, when somebody criticizes us. But when you're a leader, you're on a big stage, and you have to learn how to listen and listen for the themes, not so much individual feedback, because there'll always be people that are going to criticize you. That's why a lot of times, really famous people like Oprah and will not read comments on any of their sites because they know there's going to be people out there just taking shots at them, and if you read that, you get depressed and like, oh, people really think that,
right.
and so you have to have a thick hide, I think, to be an effective leader.
And
So,
I think you have to go through some really serious life issues because, sitting with a 5-year-old going through chemo, watching somebody pass away, all these things, that all of a sudden makes these other issues at work in,
yeah,
small.
yeah, no, that's what I call, perspective,
Uh,
keeping things in perspective. So we have a tendency to blow things out of perspective. But, if you're losing a couple of points of market share to competition, if suddenly, you're faced with a 5-year-old that has chemo needs, suddenly that doesn't
yeah.
look so, terrible. So keep things in perspective. It's one of the enemies of decision making is just, blowing things out of perspective and reducing your choices to, either or when actually there's infinite numbers of decisions you could be making. So,
How would you like to leave this today for listeners with accountability?
accountability is a mindset. So, it's how
Mm.
you think about the world. And our thoughts are what determine the world that we live in. So, if this is true, if you believe that, then why are we creating bad worlds for ourselves? If you have something negative in your life that you don't like, what is it that is creating that for you? And it's your own
Uh,
thinking, So now, if you're in a bad relationship and maybe you came from, a negative family relationship, then it's understandable. But become aware of what did I have to do about this, and what can I do to make things better? What can I do? And I think if you can take that catalytic question, that will start to bake more accountability into your own life, and it's extremely powerful. and then you won't agonize over things that are happening that you can't control. And so, to the listeners, I'd say experiment with the accountable mindset.
Right.
Um, and look it up, the accountability ladder, and you'll see all kinds of nice little etchings there. Maybe you can print out something like that, put it on your refrigerator. And when you have something happen in your life, go to that thing and say, okay, where am I on that accountability ladder? And see if you're making excuses or blaming others or are unconscious about it. Or are you in the upper part of that ladder, acknowledging reality, owning it, finding solutions.
Denny, it was great having you on today. You've touched a lot of people's lives personally, especially me, and corporately, helping change culture. I appreciate you being on today, and you'll be on again talking
Yeah,
about
good.
it.
And I hope that people can listen to your podcast and in the end just say, what can I learn that can make me a better version of myself?
Ah,
What can I learn
yes.
that can make me a better version of myself? And if everybody just takes one idea, run with it, and it makes them better, then this podcast is creating a better world. That's
No.
pretty cool.
Thank you, Danny.
All right, you bet.
Great talking to you,
Good chatting with
and
you as well.
keep on keeping on.
Stay healthy, my friend.
All right. See ya.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening today. Quite a segment. Hope you got as much out of it as I did and that you learned something from adversity, not giving up, that there's always hope no matter what the circumstances. Please subscribe to our channel so you get all the latest updates and you can see all the past great stories of people who have overcome true adversity and hardships in life. I'm Brad Henry. Thank you for tuning in.